Welcome everybody to Friday. I hope that it's been a strong finish to the week as you guys get toward the tail end. I know it's easy to maybe feel less motivated, but hopefully you can finish off the race of week 5 well. I'd like you to tell me, if you would, about 3 of the 4 different social classes in Florence. We talked about all 4 on Wednesday, but I'd like you to tell me, if you would, about 3 of the 4. Describe those. Don't just give me the titles, but tell me a little bit about who is in each group. Again, not all 4, but if you'd pick 3 out of 4, that would be awesome. We finished off talking about Florence on Wednesday, talked about kind of who they were, some of the key figures from Savonarola all the way back even to the Medicis, some of the key individuals that made Florence what it was. But wanted today talk a little bit about Milan and wrap up the big 3 that I told you at the beginning of the week that we were going to key in on. This is going to be toward the northern part of Italy, but whereas maybe there's been a difference in Florence and Venice's geography, Milan is going to be more toward the middle top part of Italy. And even though, or despite the fact that it sits at a key spot for trade, you're going to see trade becoming a secondary and the economy becoming a secondary component of Milan. They're much more focused and much more keyed in on their military and the development of that. Even within this space, you're going to see the balance between those two parts. So, the financial side and the military side, you're going to need to make sure that you're going to have a key, strong, forceful leader. And so, instead of having a Republican form of government where the people might have more power, at least within Milan, you're going to see a monarch being in place. And typically during this time, I ask students, I say, hey, what would be some forms of monarchy that you've been aware of? Some people have even gone toward dictatorship, and that's not what I'm talking about. But so often you're going to be aware of kings and queens, maybe even prince and princesses. But in Milan, you're going to see them moving away from that and instead having a duke. I think many of you guys are aware of the term for his wife. Instead of it being a queen or a princess, you're going to see a duke's wife being known as a duchess. The dukes are going to be the ones that are going to be in power over Milan. The Visconti family is going to be in charge. You can see the time that they were going to rule Milan there at the top of the screen from 1317 to 1447. So you're going to see for 130 years, which is a huge window of time, that's basically going back to the turn of the 20th century. So even a little bit before, like 1890, all the way through today, which is crazy to think about that window of time. But the Viscontis are going to be in power for that long. However, when you're going to see their leadership coming to an end, so often, like we have consistently talked about, if there's a vacuum or a lack of leadership, you're going to see a change many times coming about. And so the people of Milan say, we want to move toward a democracy, or at least a republican form of government. Unfortunately, when you step away from something that's been that firm, many times when you try to move toward the people ruling, it's an abject failure. And this is going to happen in Milan as well. After the epic demise or failure of the Republican form of government in Milan, you're going to see the guy on the right, a guy by the name of Francesco Sforza, being hired by the Viscontis, the ones that had been in charge but had slipped from power. However, even though he has been hired to bring about order to Milan and then basically return control back to them, like we've talked about so many times, the main things that mercenaries are loyal to is going to be money and then their own power growing. And so Sforza is going to now not only take the money from the Visconti family, but then you're going to see him taking over control of the city state of Milan. I've said many, many times, I think that of all the pictures that we show during the course of the year, this guy is the least trustworthy. He looks sketchy. I don't know about you, but I would not trust that guy at all. Well, we've talked about the big 3, but you're going to see a couple other groups that are going to be fighting for power, being the papal states, those controlled by the Pope and the Church in the center part of Italy, and then the Kingdom of Naples, too. You guys will label all of those areas on your map next week. However, when it appears that any one of the five is maybe getting a little bit too big for its britches, trying to get a little bit too much control or power, the other four basically come together and say, we're going to bring about or restore order. We're going to make sure that we're all on the same level. You guys, I think, are aware of how this works in American government as you think about the three different branches. So you have the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. They have these things that are in place called checks and balance. And it's going to be very much the same in Italy, trying to make sure that no one group becomes more powerful than the others. This is going to be called a balance of power, making sure that these different groups stay in check. As a result of this and the constant fighting that you're going to see amongst these different groups, Italy is ripe for invasion, and they're going to deal with invasion several different times during their history. It's going to be much divided because of these different factions that are going to be showing up. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ideas that are going to be percolating within Italy. Looking forward to that. You guys have a real strong afternoon, and we'll finish up with part two.